All right, let's see what we can do here about this. Excuse me. It's cold out there and a little under the weather, but this might be a little difficult subject, I guess, for anybody, especially those that have decided to make their own personal choices. Um, I forgot where I was going to start. This is about operating under the influence, and it could be related to any subject, any job, could be volunteer work. I suppose it could be a conflict of interest, which it is. Why would you want to get into a position where you could demonstrate how something works, uh, bring new people into the fold, new blood, kids, whatever, some of your friends and neighbors, and then go for anything. Again, it could be about, you know, uh, shade tree mechanic, fixing cars and pulling them out of the barn or the junkyard and making them run again. Uh, Something worth having, driving around town, be it a show car or just a grocery getter, beater with a heater. It could be model trains, RC airplanes, model rockets. It could be, boating or fishing or some kind of sport. It could be anything, you know. And folks like to enjoy themselves, whatever, wherever they feel like they can, I guess, get away with it, public or private. And that's anyone's business, I guess, uh, anyone's personal business. If that's what you want to do, that's your business. I'm not here to say you cannot or you should not do that to a certain extent. If you want to be representative of a certain organization or a certain hobby or sport, um, again, it happens everywhere. You can go to probably still uh, sports stadium. Doesn't matter if it's uh, football of either kind or baseball. Uh, Maybe the guys that watch rugby or um, other sports. This isn't limited to the states. It could be around the world. You can go there and buy your beer, your hot dogs, or tacos and tamales or whatever you eat. I don't know. I've never been to a football game before outside of the states, or at least what we call soccer here. So I couldn't tell you whether there be kids around it or not. Doesn't matter. It's probably part of the sales. I've seen it. I've seen it come and go. I've seen stadiums get rid of the alcohol for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because sales were bad or because it was bad influence. But besides that, as a volunteer, and you want to share with the common public or with your local authorities, uh, whatever offices, maybe your local politicians or the mayor, state governor, what have you, you want them to come out and see what you do and how you do it, and the volunteer efforts that you can provide for whatever situation or whatever uh, need arises. It could be a fun run event. It could be winter or summer field day. It could be for whatever reason that you think is necessary to share as far as volunteer services. You may be a police officer, you may be a fireman or EMT. You could fly a life flight helicopter or operate a fire truck, an ambulance. You could be a volunteer anyways. You don't even have to be on the payroll. There's a lot of those places where you're required to uh, be on the job sober in any sort of way. That's not limited to alcohol, but some kind of medication that you may be prescribed to help you keep sorted, straight, keep your mind straight. Uh, there may be users of the weed, uh, some other kind of medication to help you cope with life and the job. But for the most part, as I understand, there's a lot of things you can't do while you're inebriated, I guess is the best word. Uh, then you can't drive a truck. You get caught drunk driving or driving under the influence of some kind of drug or something. It's potential. It's jail time or prison. Lose your job, your income, your paycheck, whatever you own because you can't pay for it. Uh, Nobody wants to be on an airline when the pilot's drunk or high. How safe is that? Uh, Same thing behind the wheel or in the wheelhouse of a ship. Why would you want to go to everybody on the carnival ride is or carnival ride, it's carnival boats. They go to X number of islands and stops, enjoy their vacation. But I seriously doubt that the captain is drunk or the pilot is drunk when they're piloting that ship. Tugboats and got there in the military, they're doing the same thing. Battleships and destroyers and whatnot. Military pilots overhead, they're probably not drunk or inebriated. What I'm getting at is here, you go to a local event, let's say it's a field day event, or even POTA or SOTA, and you get out there and you're living it up on the air, operating under the influence of something other than nicotine or uh, sucrose or sugar, or just whatever might be, uh, I guess, legal. I don't know. Not to say it's. Can you be in a place, a public place that's more than frowns upon drinking in a public place, but is it illegal? Can you consume alcohol in certain places, parks, state parks, public, whatever, national parks? Is that illegal? I suppose that most of you just don't care. Um, but field day, normally you'd bring somebody in from the city and the county, maybe the mayor's office or tax assessor or maybe the governor's office. I don't know. You invite some people in, fire chief, and police chief, and folks of that status, that office, so that they can see what you're doing as volunteers as a group to communicate and pass messages, do it successfully, efficiently, set up, tear down, show them your participation awards and QSL cards and stuff like that. But that's what it used to be. We used to get out there for 24 plus hours to set up, display, public display. People come in and operate if they feel like it. Then the officials come through. Of course, they'll assign somebody ahead of time, the public information officer, to um, be the face of the organization. They have to look good on TV. They have to sound good. They have to communicate. They have to be able to demonstrate what's going on, how things go about, and then all the other guys that are behind the scenes are really behind the scenes because you don't want them to see them doing that. You don't want the common public to see that you're beer battered back there behind the radio microphone and you know hamming it up. What they used to say, at least back in the '90s, they're just hamming it up. That's what ham radio meant, which I believe is incorrect. But that's another debate for another day. But it doesn't bode well when you have to hide those things, just like a regular business. Uh, you know, that's all fine and well. If you run a bar, you come in and expect to see people play pool or Texas Hold'em or uh, serving drinks and half-dressed people and completely snookered people, and that's business. That's that business. But as a newcomer to amateur radio or any radio for that matter, might not expect that. Or their drunk neighbor next door runs the CB radio all the time and interfere with the older televisions and computers and stereos and such. And they might expect that. Some drunk guy on Channel 6 talking to Cuba or something like that, trying to compete with those guys. And it's nothing new. You would think that the other services are different. Well, they're not. They're not being that way. Folks come in like that. Folks go out like that. They'll leave the amateur radio service and go back to CB radio and raise all kind of cane and do it on whatever substance. And I suppose that's to be expected. They get mad at each other and they leave and they won't talk to each other and change services, and that's where they pop up, is some other place doing the same thing. They do it on other bands, 40 meters, 80 meters. It's not unheard of. Most of you guys know where it is. You know where to find it. You know who they are. You know where to find them. But it's passed off. You just spin the dial. Mind your own business. Spin the dial. Okay. Well, that's fine. But that leaves those particular frequencies locked up. You just gave it up. You gave it away. You have to go find your own little corner to collect your participation awards, and there's less space for you to achieve those desired things. You can find your buddies sometimes, and most time you can't. Most time they won't be your buddies anymore because your opinion differs. This has nothing to do with saying you can't do this, but more on the lines of you probably should not. If you want to, if you want to say lead by example, or a good example, lead by a half-ass example, what do you really want to show the people that don't know about this yet? Who do you want to impress? How do you really want to get this done? When you volunteer for a foot race, but they've already seen you set up for a field day, half skunked, they're half drunk, and they're going to look back and say, hey, we've seen you do this before. Is this going to happen again on public streets, sidewalks, parks, amongst the public, amongst the rest of the drunks? Sometimes, you either fit in or you don't. If you come under FEMA or EMA or Red Cross, guys like that, you're either going to want to expect to have a beer break, or for that matter, a smoke break, or they're going to say, no, we've seen you do this before. This isn't what we represent. This isn't how we want to do things, or we don't want the common public to see this because it'll make us look bad. They're not going to bring you in. Maybe not as a whole group at all. They'll just bring in others, or they'll just continue using their cell phones as long as they work. We don't have a need for that. We don't need to give a reason either, but we do have cell phones. We can do everything you do with a cell phone and a whole lot more. Your representation is gone. Label it all as an opinion. That's fine, but it can happen. Give a poor representation up front, which clubs try to hide anyways. They'll keep the people off the television that they don't want the common public to see, and they'll put Jane or Joe Perfect in front of the camera. This is how we do it, but behind the scenes, no, it's not represented very well. And you've got good people that are in those clubs that really don't do those things. They don't care to operate influenced or under the influence, but they are influenced, and they're kind of pushed aside. We don't need any more naysayers or disagreements about this, but I'm going to do it any way I want. Or I put the most money in this club. I'm paying out of pocket. Turn on my battery saver here. It's like any other business. I hold the most shares in this company. We're going to do it my way. But it's a club. And to an extent, they're right. They want their investments to produce. But you can't have someone else come in that doesn't do things like drinking or smoking, whatever, fill in the blank, popping whatever pills, fill in the blank, as they operate. But they don't say a word because they want to belong and participate and actually get things done and be a good representative, but they're being held back by alpha male in charge or alpha female. Is there such a thing? Does it really happen? Is it like going along with the rest of the gang? And as long as it's hurting nobody, it isn't a problem. As long as nobody gets hurt. And I understand that to an extent, but are you hurting yourselves in the long run? Nobody wants to be judged. Well, you're not being judged. The people that view you from the outside judge for themselves what they want to do or who they want to associate with or how they want to operate. If they want to operate clean, they'll participate. If they want to operate under the influence, you're going to find less people that want to participate. And less people that will bring in their kids because they don't want their kids involved until they're old enough to make decisions for themselves. I've been there. I've been there on both sides. I've been the adult with kids, and I've been the kid without the adult. And the only adults, or at least half of the only adults that were representative of such clubs, they were drunk, or they smoked, or whatever. To a lot of people, this is nothing. because they always drink, they always smoke weed or do some drug or on some kind of medication because they have to have it. To them, it's nothing. To the people that aren't used to it, they're really unsure what they want to do and where they want to go. And then it leads to uninvitations. Okay, that's fine. It's not the only bar in the town. It's not the only restaurant in the town. Customers will take their business elsewhere. Members will take their memberships and their money elsewhere. Then the guys that have all their investments in this one little group, or they share their groups, because that's all they got. They got 5 people in the group. Then you go to the next group, it's the same 5 people. And the next group, same 5 people. Well, they're running all the clubs. Is there any wonder? Can all the other people get together and say, hey, let's just do this ourselves, whether they have that kind of pull or influence with the locals, authorities? Maybe they'll be the underdogs. Who knows? It's like any other organization. You wouldn't go to mass drunk. You wouldn't go to Sunday school drunk. Why would you want to do any of these other things under the influence? Why would you want to be beer battered in public to represent something that might be of use to the common public, might be of service to the common public? The volunteer firemen don't do it, I imagine. All the other city entities, county entities don't do it. They don't do that stuff on the job that we know of. But at least in all the regular businesses, do they do that too? Likely. They got a bunch of stuff to hide too. They got skeletons in their closets. Even the politicians. So this is all nothing new. It's all old hat. So I suppose my only advice to you is, when you're out researching these guys, and even the YouTubers that want to teach your children how to do these things, they like to get drunk on the air. They like to get drunk in front of the camera, or at least one beer. They'll have a pint. We'll talk about this and that. Have a pint. Cool. That's fine. It's not just in this hobby. It's across the spectrum of all hobbies and interests and genres and everything on YouTube. But probably the best thing you can do is decide for yourself. Not judging others, but judge for yourself. Who do you want to associate with what you want to do? How do you want to influence others? What do you really want to look like while you're practicing this hobby, while you operate? How do you want to log your contacts? Do you keep a log when you talk on the repeater? Or is it just for HF radio? That's it. Now, as a truck driver, we log every movement. Every duty status change was marked, except when you're on break. Working around the truck, on the truck, at the dock, if you did that. Maneuvers in the parking lot, that's driving, because the vehicle's moving with you behind the controls of the wheels. Then on the interstate, same thing. All duty status changes were marked. Do you log the nets that you work on? Do you log every contact on simplex? Do you log everything on the repeater? Or nobody will ever see that. Nobody will ever know. Well, the neat thing about that is you at least have a history of operating. And when somebody says, my neighbor interferes with so-and-so at so-and-so, and it's been like that for months, you go back to your records and you can say, okay, do you have a day and time this happened? Sure, this date, that time. It's not in the log. It's not me. There's a log right there. I was not operating at that time, or I was operating at this time. Did you experience interference then? Well, no. It's not me. It's at least a written record, if not an electronic log, e-logs, just like driving a truck. Same thing for the railroad. They have logs too. They log everything for aircraft. And now we have video documentation. And people are getting drunk on the air or on the YouTube. People see that. And there may be restrictions for it. And there will be people to say, I don't want my kids watching that. If this is what you're teaching, if you say this is okay because you want to get away with it, or because you just want to do it flat out, that's your business. That's fine. But there will be people who say, I don't want my kids doing that. I don't want them to participate if that's just the way it is. Can they do all this without doing it the way you do it? Sure. But there may be, I don't know, less trust in guys like that. All the algorithm achievers, I guess, the money makers, the number kings on YouTube. I don't know. How do you want to represent all that participation award across their board? Algorithm, numbers, the money they make, uh, Patreon members, supporters, all the products that come in, all the achievement awards, participation trophies, or they actually going to listen to your content and actually learn something, or it just could be out there at field day. What are they going to learn? They toss some antennas up in the trees, connected to a radio, and push the button on their bag phone. Oh, excuse me, their IC 7300. Plug it in, pull out the antenna, push the button, turns the power on. You dial up the phone number and push the send button, PTT, and talk on the bag phone, ham radio, and that's it. Or they do it the old way. None of this text message stuff is FT8, waterfall figured out on the screen. No, they just turned it on, warmed it up, set the plate, the driver, and whatever else, just this, that, make sure the tubes were warm, and maybe they talked to the microphone, or they just, we had guys that just hammer away. They didn't write stuff down except for logging. Conversations, paragraphs. Oh yeah, is that what you said? Here's my response. As fast as they can. I had no idea what they were saying, but they were doing it sober. They erected everything, towers, beams, decent stations. They throw together a bus or something and operate in the Georgia South heat, and tear it all down again. Sober. And they look good, and good representation. They had good people come in from city and government offices. I'm sure they were impressed. I don't care. Do it however you want to do it. But as for me, I'm not going to have part of it. Even if I have to do field day by myself, which is possible. It is, after all, only practice. And a lot of these folks aren't contesters, so they don't care. They just want to talk to you or record it as a contact. What do you want to do? Which neighborhood kids do you want to play with? You want to play with the bullies because that's all there is, or you want to go find some girl next door, or baseball team down the street, or the guys that play kickball or basketball? Find something else to do. Somebody's going to want you to come and play because they're going to need another member on their team. They'll want to see your skills, and maybe you'll be pretty good at it. Or as you all practice together, you will get good at it. And you'll do it on your own merits. You won't need any outside help. I don't know. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't care. I don't chase the algorithm. I'm like a lot of folks that tiny YouTube channels. I just share. Good day.